Okay. Right. So yesterday we dealt with what I can say Poisson. Right. Yesterday we dealt with Poisson. Right. Now let's deal with binomial. Right. And I said there are certain things that you need to take note of if you're dealing with binomial. Right. And I said there is a chance for success or failure. That's the thing that you need. There is going to be a chance for success or failure. Right. There is sample size, which we can call n. There are n outcomes. Right. So once you see this, and the chance for success or failure is given either as a percentage, fraction, or decimal. Once you see this, then you know that we are dealing with binomial. Right. So we are going to calculate certain questions on binomial, right? And this is the formula for the binomial. Probability of x is equals to NCX, right? You see there's an R here, is same as putting in x. Then p to the power x, open bracket, 1 minus p to the power n minus x. That's the formula. Mean for binomial, which is mu, is given by n times p. And standard deviation is given by the root of np, open bracket, 1 minus p. That's your standard deviation. Right. Okay. So now, let's look at the first question. The first thing is to identify whether it's Poisson or it's binomial. Let's look at this question. Right, what's that? Let's read that question and answer the questions that follows. Right, a computer manufacturer has established that 4% of its new laptops are retained for defective repair within 12-month warranty period. I assume that the manufacturer has sold 12 laptops. What's this? Tando. Is it binomial or Poisson?
It's binomial.
Correct, it's binomial. So we are dealing with binomial. Right. If it is binomial, now you know your formula. Probability for x is given by NCX p to the power x, open bracket, 1 minus p to the power n minus x. Right. Now the question is saying, what is the probability that there will be no defective unit at all? So what is your p? What is your probability? Your probability is what? Our p, then we need to find our x. What is our p? Our probability. What is our p?
I think it's 4%, which is
Yeah. So as a decimal is what? 4%?
0.04.
0.04. And what is our x? What is the probability that there will be no defective? What is your x? What is your x? Your x is 0, isn't it? And what is your n? How many units do we have here?
12.
We have 12, isn't it? Okay. So now, since we have 12, what's the next thing that we have to do? We need to substitute. Now, these are easy marks to get now. Let's substitute probability that there won't be any defective. Probability that there will be 0 defective is equals to n, which is 12C0, multiplied by our probability, which is 0.04 to the power x 0, multiplied by 1 minus 0.04 to the power 12 minus 0. Just like that. Then let's solve. Probability that there won't be any defective is equals to, then you can take your calculator, 12C0 times 0.04 to the power 0 times 1 minus 0.04 to the power 12 minus 0, which is 12. Then you get 0.613 if we round up. Right? That was the first part. Any question on the first part? Right? If there are no questions, let's go to the second part. Right? Let's go to the second part. If there are not any questions, okay, let me just open. Right, okay. Right, we were doing that's the first question that we are doing. So if it is the first question, yeah, then there's nothing difficult there. Right. Just do this. Okay. So for this question, okay, for those who are online, there's someone who joined, so I'm just repeating this part first. Right, it says a computer manufacturer has established that 4% of its new laptops sold are retained for defective repair within the 12-month warranty period. Assume that the computer manufacturer has sold 12 laptops. What is the probability that there will be no defective? So the first thing you have to identify, what is this probability? Since we have a chance of success or failure in this chance for it to be defective, if it's 4%. So you know it's binomial, right? Then you write your formula for binomial. Probability for x is equals to ncx, probability p to the power x, open bracket, 1 minus p to the power n minus x. Then you write your p, which is 4%, as a decimal, 0.04. Then you write your x. The question is saying there will be no defective, which means it's 0. And n, we have a sample of 12 laptops. So n is 12. Then we substitute into our equation, which is probability that there won't be any defective, which is 0, is 12C0 multiplied by 0.04 to the power 0 multiplied by 1 minus 0.04 to the power 12 minus 0. Then we get our answer, just like that. Okay. Now let's go to 4.22. You can calculate and see if you get the same answer. Right, get calculate, then you see if you get the same answers. Then we go to the 4.22, the next question. 4.22. Right, are you done? Okay. Right, let's go to 4.22. It says, how likely is that the company will receive less than 2 or more than 3 laptops for repair? Right, this one is quite big. It's quite big. Right, first of all, let's write our P. This is quite big. Our P, just make it bigger. Right, our P is equals to 0.04. Our N is 12. What about our X? It says we receive less than 2 or more than 3. So what is our X? Which numbers are less than 2? 0, 1. These are the numbers less than 2, isn't it? Or more than 3. Which numbers are more than 3? It's 4, isn't it? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Remember, it's binomial. We end at 12. If it is Poisson, it goes to infinity. Right. So this is all that you need to calculate. But can you see you are going to take a lot of time to calculate this? It's going to be very hard because our probability, it will be probability of 0 plus probability of 1 plus probability of 4 plus probability of 5 until you get to probability of 12. Then you get your answer. So is there a shorter way of calculating this? Anyone? A shorter way of calculating this? Yeah, if you have time, you can do all this. But you can see that it's a long way. What's the shorter way of calculating this? What's the shorter way of calculating this? Remember, we have 12 items. I'll just show you now. So probability in total is always equals to 1. So probability of 0 plus probability of 1 plus probability of 2 plus probability of 3 plus probability of 4 plus probability of 5 until plus probability of 12 should be equals to 1. Right. But here we only need probability of 0 and 1, and we also need probability of 4 to 12, which is the longer way. So the easier way, you can simply take this probability, and you put it this side, you subtract. So it will be 1 minus probability of 2 plus probability of 3. If we remove 2 and 3, then we remain with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 until 12. Easy as that. That's the shorter way of doing it. If you have time, you can do all of them, but you're going to take a longer time. So you simply need to calculate probability of 2 and probability of 3. Then you subtract it from 1. Because if we subtract 2 and 3, it means we remain with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Because we have removed 2 and 3. Therefore, we remain with this. Right. So now we see the formula. We'll just write it here now. So we said our P, let me just use white. Our P is 0.04. Our X is 0, 1, right? 0, 1, 2, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. you cannot calculate all this. You can, but you take a lot of time. So the easier way is 1 minus the things that we don't need. Probability of, is it less than? Okay, less than 2. There is no 2 here, sorry for that. It's probability for less than 2. So it's 0, 1, then 4. Okay, so the easier way is probability 1 minus probability of 2 plus probability of 3. If we remove 2 and 3 from 12, we will remain with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6, the one that we want. So let's find probability for 2, then probability for 3. So probability for 2 is equals to, you still remember the formula? Okay, let me write it. The formula, probability for x is ncx p to the power x 1 minus p to the power n minus x. So probability for 2 is 12. Our n is 12, isn't it? Don't forget that. N is 12. It's 12 C2 multiplied by 0.04 to the power 2 multiplied by 1 minus 0.04 to the power 12 minus 2. Then we do that for 3 is 12 C3 multiplied by 0.04 to the power 3 multiplied by 1 minus 0.04 to the power 12 minus 3. We get our answers. Right, you can calculate 12 C2. C stands for combination. Times 1 minus 0.04 to the power. Here I got 0.07. Then the next one. Zero 0.01 if we round. I'm just rounding to 2 decimal places. Therefore, we come and substitute 1 minus 0.07 plus 0.01, which is 0.92. Easy like that. Easy like that. Right, any questions so far? Any questions? Nicolette? Any questions on this one? Tandu?
No, sir. I just joined and I'm just trying to figure out what we are doing.
Okay, did you watch the videos I posted on my LMS?
The last video?
On binomial and Poisson.
Not really, sir.
Okay, you need to watch them as well. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right, okay. Let's go to the next question. Let's go to the next question. Right, we'll do as many questions as possible. Right, let's look at this question. Right, then next week it will be revision. We'll do everything else that we have done. Right, so the question is saying the probability that a salesperson will sell a magazine subscription to someone who has been randomly selected from the telephone directory is 0.1. If the salesperson calls 6 individuals, what is the probability that there will be no subscription? What are we dealing with? Is it binomial or Poisson? Oh, wait. Come again? Are you saying Poisson? Read again. the probability that a salesperson will sell a magazine subscription to someone who has been randomly selected from the telephone directory is 0.1. What's that? It's binomial, isn't it? You see, there's probability. If you check from the beginning, did I write it? There's chance of success or failure, either as a percentage, fraction, or decimal. So in this question, you have a decimal. Your probability is in form of a decimal. So this is binomial. So we are dealing with binomial. So if it is binomial, your formula, probability of x is equals to ncx p to the power x 1 minus p to the power n minus x. That's the formula that we are going to use. So let's look at the first question. Right, it says that there won't be any subscription. What is your p? It's 0.1. What is your n? What's your n? What's your sample size? 6. And what is your x? 0. Then what do? We substitute. Right, probability that there won't be any sales, probably it's 0. N6C0 multiplied by P 0.1 to the power 0 multiplied by 1 minus 0.1 to the power 6 minus 0. You get the answer. 6C0 times 0.1 to the power 0 times 1 minus 0.1 to the power. Then you get 0.531. There is nothing complicated on this topic, okay? Right, we are done with the first one. Right, then let's go to the second one. We need to find what is x. Right, it is saying no more than 2 subscription, no more than 2. Well, so what is our x? If we say no more than 2, Gomolem, what's your x?
It's 2, sir.
No more than 2 subscriptions. So
More than 2. It's 0, 1.
And 2.
2.
No more than 2. So we need 2 and below. So that's our x. Right? Of which for 0, we've already calculated for 0 here, which is 0.531. For 0, we have already calculated. Just put the answer there. So now we need to calculate for 1. So probability that 1 will be sold is equals to CC1 times 0.1 to the power 1 times open bracket 1 minus 0.1 to the power n 6 minus x1. What do you get? To the power 6 minus 1, we get 5. We get 0.354. Right, then we do for 2, probability that 2 will be sold. It's 6C2 times 0.1 to the power 2 times 1 minus 0.1 to the power 6 minus 2. Which gives you 0.098. Then we can add our probability of 0 plus probability of 1 plus probability of 2, which is 0.531 plus 0.354 plus 0.098. Then your answer is 0.983. Done. Right. Then it says at least 3. At least 3. Right. I want this answer. I'm going to put it somewhere because I want to use it. Right. I'll cut this one so that we can use it later on. Now the question is saying at least 3. Just put it here. Right. What are we going to do? It's saying at least 3. At least 3. I still need to use this one. If we say at least 3, your P is 0.1, your N is 6. What is your X? What's your X? Oh, wait, at least 6, at least 3. What's your X?
0, 1, 2.
At least 3.
3,
3,
4.
4, 5.
Correct. It's 3, 4, 5 until 6, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. So you can calculate the probability for 3, for 4, for 5, and for 6. But can you see there are less marks? There's only 2 marks compared to this one. It means there's a shortcut that you need to do. Remember, we have 6 items. Probability for 0 plus probability for 1 plus probability for 2 plus probability for 3 plus probability for 4 plus probability for 5 plus probability for 6 is equals to 1, since probability adds to 1. But we have already calculated this probability. 0, 1, and 2. We have already calculated it. So we can simply take it and subtract it from 1 so that we remain with 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we can say 1 minus probability of 0 plus probability of 1 plus probability of 2, of which you have already calculated it on top. So it's simply 1 minus 0.983. That's why it doesn't have a lot of marks. So 1 minus 0.983. Then you get 0.017. If you want, you can take the longer route. You still get the same answer. You can calculate 3, 4, 5, 6. You still get the same answer as this, but you are simply wasting your time for 2 marks. Let's do it and see if we get the same answer. So we are going to calculate the probability for 3. So I'm just going to put it here. This one. Just put it here. Also put it here. So now we know our P is 0.1, our N is 6, our X is 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need probability for 3, which is 6C3 times 0.1 to the power 3 times, open bracket, 1 minus 0.1 to the power 6 minus 3. Then we do that for 4. 6C4 multiplied by 0.1 to the power 4 multiplied by 1 minus 0.1 to the power 6 minus 4. We do that for 5. 6C5 times 0.1 to the power 5 times 1 minus, so this is 0.1, 0.1 to the power 6 minus 5. Then P6 is 6C6 times 0.1 to the power 6 times, open bracket, 1 minus 0.1 to the power 6 minus 6. Let's get the answers. Then we add them together. That's the longer route that you can take. Okay. 6 C3 times 0.1 to the power 3 times 0.01458. Okay, just write it. Then we go to the next one. 0.001215. Then we go to the next one. You get 0.00. Roman zeros 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. Then the last one. Get 0.0000 something like that. Okay, right? Then once you are done, you can add them together, right? This plus this times 0.1 to the power 3 right, plus right, you get approximately 0.016. The only difference is because of rounding your answers. If we don't round our answers for this one and this one, they will be the same. That's the long arrows, right? Of which it gives you still the same answer. So make sure you'll be able to see that, okay, what was asked here can be found here. You can still use that. That's what I want you to take note of, right? Easy as that. Right, let's look at another question. Let's look at another question. We are done with this one. This one, I think now we can answer it easily. Right, it has been observed that 30% of accounts receivable in large company are overdue. What's this? Binomial or Poisson? This is binomial, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it's binomial.
It's binomial, correct. Okay, so if it is binomial, we know our formula. Probability for x is equals to ncx p to the power x 1 minus p to the power n minus x. Okay, easy as that. Right, so we need to find what is our p. What is our p?
It's 30.
So what do we write?
0.3.
0.3.
0.3. Okay, and what's our sample size? N.
4.
It's 4. And for 3.11, what is your x?
It's 0.
0, correct. Then what do we do next? Substitute. I think
Yes,
you
it's
get,
substitute.
which is 4c0 multiplied by 0.3 to the power 0 multiplied by 1 minus 0.3 to the power 4 minus 0. Easy as this, right? 4c0 times 0.3 to the power 0 times 1 minus 0.3 to the power 4, which is equals to 0.2401. You're done. Simple as that. Any questions on that? Okay. Then let's go to 3.12. No more than 2. No more than 2. I will just write this probability that we don't have 0 is 0.2401 in case we want to use it later on. Right. So let's go to 3.12. Let's go to 3.12. Right. We know our P is 0.3. Our N is 4. What is our X now? No more than 2. So it is 0, 1,
1, and 2.
we end there. That's correct. Right. But do you see we have already done for 0? We have already, you don't need to repeat it. That is for 0. We have calculated it. So we only need for 1 and 2. So let's start with probability for 1, which is equals to 4C1 times 0.3 to the power 1 times open bracket 1 minus 0.3 to the power 4 minus 1. Then you also do for 2, which is 4C2 multiplied by 0.3 to the power 1 to the power 2 times 1 minus 0.3 to the power 4 minus 2. Right, 4C1 times 0.3 to the power 1 times to the power getting 0.4116. Then we do the same for the next one. Then we get 0.2646. So now we can add probability for 0 plus probability for 1 plus probability for 2. For 0, we already calculated it at the beginning. So 0.240, 1 plus 0.4116 plus 0.2646. Then you can get your answer. Which is 0.9163. Easy as that. Any questions? No questions. Now it says at least 3. At least 3. How do you do that? At least 3 accounts are overdue. Okay, let me cut this one, put it here so that we can use it later. Right, I'll just put it here. Right, now the question is saying at least 3. So your P is 0.3, your N is 4,
It's
right?
4,
Your X
X,
is,
or 0,
it says at least 3.
3 and 4.
It's
3
3 and
and
4.
4.
3 and 4, right? But we have already calculated 0, 1, and 2. Remember, only 4 items. So it's probability of 0 plus probability of 1 plus probability of 2 plus probability of 3 plus probability of 4. Since we have 4, it gives you 1. But we have already calculated these items. So we can simply take them and subtract them from 1. 1 minus probability of 0 plus probability of 1 plus probability of 2, of which that's the one that we calculated above. So it's 1 minus 0.9163. Easy as that. Which gives you 0.0837. That's the way that you can do it. If you don't want, you can calculate for 3 and 4. If you don't want, you can go on and calculate for 3 and for 4. So I'll just put it here. Then let's calculate for 3 and 4. Right, this is one way of doing it. This one, sorry, this way. You can do it this way, right? Or you can calculate your, since your P is 0.3, your N is 4, your X is 3 and 4. You calculate probability for 3, which is 4C3 times 0.3 to the power 3 times 1 minus 0.3 to the power 4 minus 3. Then you do for 4, which is 4C4 multiplied by 0.3 to the power 4 multiplied by 1 minus 0.3 to the power 4 minus 4. Let's get the answers. 4C3 times 0.3 to the power 3 times, right, getting 0.0756. Then we do for 4, 0.0081. Let's add them. 0.0756 plus 0.081. What's your answer? 0.0837, which is the same as this one. Right, it's the same, but the only difference now is that we use another way. So you can use that way as well, but you still get to the same answer. Right, here the answers are exactly the same because we didn't round our numbers. So that's 2 ways you can calculate it. That's the 2 ways you can calculate this. Okay. Where is Njabulo? It's gone. Okay. Right. Any questions here? Any questions here? Right. There are 2 ways of doing it. I think you saw. This way of subtracting, or you can go to 3 and 4. Then you get the answer. So just choose the shorter route. That's the concept here. Just choose for the shorter route to save time. Right. Let's look at another one. Okay. There is a question again. Right. This one, I need you people to help me to answer everything. So who is going to answer the first one? Nicolette, you answer the first one. Right, a manufacturer of metal components finds that on average, 12% of the company's manufactured units are rejected because they are either oversized or undersized. What are we dealing with? Poisson or binomial? Anyone? Is this Poisson or binomial?
Binomial.
Right, this is binomial. Once you know it's binomial, write your formula. Right. Then what is the probability that a batch of 11 units will contain no rejects or? So your probability is what? What's your P? What's your P? Tand.
Zero, sir.
Your P.
My probability.
Yeah. It's on the scenario, isn't it? Okay, what is your X? Okay, what is N? Let's start with N.
So my P is zero, sir.
Okay, I'm saying let's start with N. What's your N?
11.
What is X?
0.12.
Can your units be 0.12? Is that possible?
Oh, sorry.
Your x is 11 units, isn't here? Sorry, your x is the. It say what is the probability that a batch of flavor will contain no rejects? So your x is 0, and your probability for having a reject is 12%. It's given. The probability is always given in the scenario. Right, 12% of the carbon units are rejected. 12%. That's your P. Okay. Then we can substitute probability that there won't be any rejects. That's 0 is equals to 11C0 multiplied by 0.12 to the power 0 multiplied by 1 minus 0.12 to the power n. 11 minus 0. You get your answer. Right, then you get 0.245. Easy as that. Right, let's go to 7.12. 7.12. What is the probability that in a batch of 24 units, at least 4 units will be accepted? At least 4, isn't it? But look, in a batch of what? 24 units. Okay, let's write it down. Okay, sorry. Are you done here? Done. Okay. Right. So it's saying in a batch, let's look at it. In a batch of 24 units. So our P, we know our P is 0.12, right? Our N, now we have what? 24 units. What about our X? It says at least 4, so we have 4, 5 until we reach 24. So do you see it's going to be very difficult for you to calculate 4, 5 until 24? So what's the easier way? The easier way is what? Oh wait, what's the easier way? It's 1 minus probability of what? 0,
1, 2, 3.
1, 2 until probability of 3. Easy as that. That's the easier way. Rather than you calculating 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 until 24, you're going to waste a lot of time. Right. So we start with our probability for 0. Right. We can start with our probability for 0. Okay, I'll just. So we can start. So here, the easier way is 1 minus the probability for 0, for 1, for 2, and for 3. That's the easier way. So we can start with the probability for 0, which is equals to 24C0 multiplied by 0.12 to the power 0 multiplied by 1 minus 0.12 to the power 24 minus 0. Then we go for 1. 24C1 multiplied by 0.12 to the power 1 multiplied by 1 minus 0.12 to the power 24 minus 1. Then you do that for 2. 24C2 times 0.12 to the power 2 times 1 minus 0.12 to the power 24 minus 2. Then you do the same for 3. 24C3 times 0.12 to the power 3 times 1 minus 0.13 to the power 24 minus 3. Let's get the answers. Okay. 24C 0 times 0.12 to the power 0 times to the power 24. Right, 0.0465. Then now it's 1. 0.1522. Then now it's 2. Then 0.2387. Then for 3, 0.2387. Then we can add all our answers to get the probability. Which gives us a total of 0.6761. That's the total probability for 0 plus probability for 1 plus probability for 2 plus probability for 3. And remember, we need to subtract it from 1 since we need 4, 5, 6. Therefore, you can say 1 minus these probabilities. So it will be 1 minus 0.6761. Then you can get your answer. Your answer is 0.3239. If we round, then this is your final answer. Easy as that. Easy as that. Right. Make sure you know this. These things will always come in your test. Right. We are done with this. Any questions on this one? Any questions here? You're fine. Okay. Right. Let's look at okay, I think my questions that I've prepared, they are now done. Okay, like I just want to show you something. Where's the formula? Right. So sometimes they can ask you to calculate the mean, and you still remember mean is equals to NP, isn't it? And standard deviation is equals to root of NP open bracket 1 minus P. Right. This is for binomial. They can ask you for the mean, it's NP. They can ask you for standard deviation, which is NP open bracket 1 minus P root sign. So what I'm going to do now, we are going to calculate the mean and the standard deviation for the questions that we have been doing. The mean and the standard deviation. Right, let's go to this question first. Just calculating the mean and the standard deviation. Right, you still remember our P is 0.04. Our N is what? Is 12. Then I can say calculate the mean. Mean is equals to NP. So what's your mean? 12 times 0.04. 12 times 0.04. You get 0.48. I can ask you for standard deviation. This is the formula for standard deviation. NP open bracket 1 minus P under the root sign. standard deviation is equals to NP open bracket 1 minus P under the root sign. So what's your N? It's 12. What's your P? 0.04 multiplied by open bracket 1 minus 0.04. That's how you calculate your standard deviation. 12 times 0.04 times 1 minus 0.04. Then you put it under a square root. Then your standard deviation 0.679. Right. Know these formulas. Mean is NP, standard deviation is this one. Let's look for another question. Then we calculate mean and standard deviation. So the formulas you can see, you'll be given. You don't need to worry about anything. You have them, these two formulas. You have to use these two, mean and standard deviation. Okay. Which one? We did this one. Okay. Right. Let's look at this. Right. It said the probability that a cells, so we find that our P is 0.1, our N is 6. So calculate your mean. Your mean, which is mu, is equals to NP, which is equals to 0.1 times 6, which is equals to 0.6, isn't it? You are done. Then calculate your standard deviation. Standard deviation is equals to root of NP open bracket 1 minus P. Right? What is your N? 6 times 0.1 open bracket 1 minus 0.1. Close the bracket. So 6 times 0.1 times 1 minus 0.1, then root of that, you get 0.735. Nothing complicated. These are easy marks. If they ask for the mean and standard deviation, right? Let's look for another one, mean and standard deviation. Let's look at this question. If they ask for the mean, right, 30%, so we know our P is equals to 0.3, and our N, right? How many accounts? It's 4. Our N is 4. Then if the question says calculate the mean, your mean is going to be NP, which is 0.3 times 4, which is equals to 1.2. And your standard deviation will be root of NP open bracket 1 minus P, which is 0.3 times 4 open bracket 1 minus 0.3 under the root sign, which gives you 0.9165. Easy as that, right? That's what they can ask of you. Say calculate this, calculate this. Right, any questions on mean and standard deviation? This is quite simple, right? So it's the same thing. The last one, let's do the mean for 7.12. I'm doing for this one for 7.12. If they say calculate the mean, mean is equals to NP. What is our N? Our N is 24. Our P, it doesn't change, 0.12. Okay, so what do we have to do now? 24 times 0.12. We get 2.88. Then standard deviation is equals to the root of NP open bracket 1 minus P, which is root of 24 times 0.12 times open bracket 1 minus 0.12. Then the root of that, you get your standard deviation 1.5919. Easy like that. Right. That's how they can ask you to do this. Right. These are the ones we did them yesterday. Still remember this. Right. So know your formulas. Know your formulas. Know your formulas. Know this is binomial. And this is your Poisson. And this is your mean. And this is your standard deviation. And this is your mean under Poisson. And this is your standard deviation. Mean is same as your average. It's the same thing. So the question can say calculate the average, then that's what you have to do. So that's your binomial and Poisson. Right. Any questions on binomial and Poisson? Any questions? So I think you can now practice, right? So I'm just going to show you this, then I think you can, right? I want to show you something. Then you can, I'll just share this screen with you. I want you to take note of what they're going to ask for your next online assessment. Right. Please look at this tutorial. Okay, let me share the screen with those who are online. But some of you say we didn't see it. Right. There is this screen that you are seeing here, guys. This screen. Tutorial 1 in the solution. If you don't do these things, you're not going to pass. I'm telling you. You see, calculate your mean, mode, median, standard deviation. You can see that. Do this. Do this. You have to first construct what? Your intervals. Okay. Then there's a solution here. Then if you go to tutorial 2, you can see that you need to calculate the mean without grouping. The standard deviation and every, without grouping them. This is the first one was grouped data, then ungrouped data, right? And the solution, you can see the solution, how they did this is even there. You can see that this is ungrouped data. Know those formulas, the first topics that we did, first topic that we did. And look at the formula that was used, summation of X. I said the one that has F is the one that deals with grouped data. So make sure you go through these tutorials. Then you go also to tutorial 3, right? Which is probability. Go through these probabilities. You see, of throwing a dice in order to get 3, 6 in a row. All the answers are there, the basic probabilities. Go through this in tutorial 4, right? Cross tabulation table, the one that we're doing. All this, please go through this table, these tutorials. If you don't go through them, because normally I know this guy who is setting these papers, just go through these tutorials, go through them. There are 4 with solutions there, right? And I have uploaded all these lessons on Poisson and binomial 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4 hours, 6 hours of examples, right? And I have put the memo for your CA1 and the question bank for week 1 and week 2, week 3 with solutions so that you can practice, right? And the videos all are there. Then if you go to your tests, if you check your test, what you're going to be answering, let's go there. Okay. Right, we are in week what? Right, I just want the test. Okay, your first is online assessment 1, which is next week. It covers week 1 to 3. Take note, week 1 to 3. What is covered in week 1 to 3? If you go to your module guide, week 1, this is week 1. Don't forget those pie charts, histograms, your theory, right? Then we go to week 2, basic probability, the tables, marginal, joint, conditional, right? Know all that. Then week 3, Poisson and binomial. That's your test. That's where your test is coming from. So make sure you study. Follow your study guide. Right. And please, I don't just put these things for nothing. Eh? Right. And I wanted to show you that I can track you guys what you are doing. For example, I see who has done anything. Gomolemo did this, read this, did that. This one did this. This one, nothing yet done there. It shows me. So don't tell me that I have done this. It tells me who is doing what, This one, 60% of the work, boy, cans nothing yet done on my LMS. It tells me the percentage of what is really happening. So I can track and see who is really doing what. And it shows that this was watched or not. You see all this, not opened, right? So don't just sit there. I'm able to see what is happening, right? So make sure you practice these things that I upload on the mid-run page. And if you go also to the, for example, we are in week 3. If you go to week 3, at the end, you're going to see questions, right? Binomial, then Poisson, and solutions as well. You can see that. So go through those things to help you. So after you do a self-test, we have done binomial, do these questions, right? Then you do your Poisson, you get your answers. The answers are there, clearly written, no struggle, right? Okay, any questions? That's it. That's week 3. So make sure you've done that in week 3. If you go to week 2, at the end, there are also examples. You see for your group data, you calculate everything, and for your cross tabulation table and the solutions. So make sure you utilize this. Once you are done, then you can go also to mid-run page. There are other extra activities for you to practice. And I've already put the slides here and the formula sheet. The slides and the formula sheet. So these things are there for you to be able to practice. Right. So as I told you, I can see your progress, what you're doing here. It gives me the statistics, whether you're working or not. Right. Every activity that you open, it reports. So make sure, please, you practice. This is one of the modules that you can easily get a distinction. Nothing hard here. Right. Any questions? Any questions for today's lesson? No questions. Tando and Gomolemo, any questions there?
No questions.
No, sir.
Okay. So if you don't have any questions, guys, then we'll see again next week. Just keep on practicing. If anyone has any question, you are feel free to ask me either on WhatsApp or email or anything. Right. Okay. So if there are not any questions, thank you for joining the class, guys. Okay. Stop the recording.